And that's available from 4 o'clock. Right.
Okay,
New
so
stuff.
Black Gold, notable mainly for Tahar Rahim, who was the star of A Prophet. He was absolutely fantastic. I think he was nominated for BAFTA Rising Star last year. Features a sweeping historical epic with kind of latter-day significance, set in 1930s on the cusp of the Arab states oil boom. Story is 2 leaders reach a truce over a stretch of desert, which they agree that no one will own and no one will touch. So it's yellow belt, no man's land. And the story is the 2 potentates come to an agreement that the way in which the truce will be held is that one potentate will give his sons to the other to be raised, so therefore they can't wage war against each other. The whole thing is, I can't wage war against you, but you can't wage war against me. Then what happened, and Tahar Rahim plays one of the sons who then grows up, under his father's enemies' jurisdiction. They're no longer enemies, having reached truce. But then, of course, what happens is the oil is discovered in the no man's land, and the next thing you know, the oil is starting to be exploited, which sets off old rivalries and sets in motion a chain of anguish and destruction. Here's a clip.
I am not the ruler of a country yet. I rule over a patchwork of tribes, all deeply conservative people.
You mean they don't like oil?
The only use the tribes ever had for oil is to put it on their camels as a poultice when they had mange. But I'll make a great show of consulting with them, put some gold in their pockets, and make sure you and your people are protected.
It would perhaps have been better if Your Majesty had waited with the exploitation of the Yellow Belt.
I should wait for the next cholera epidemic. The next woman to die in childbirth like my wife did. Our people need the wealth oil brings. Now.
I'm sorry.
I know, and you did it. You did exactly the thing that I said after that movie. It was going to ever be impossible to ever hear that voice again without going
Puss in Boots. He's doing his Puss in Boots voice. That's what it is.
What he's doing, he does have the most extraordinary voice. But when he's, when he's speaking in English, and he does it doing that, I mean, I can't do an impression of it, but it is true. And I said that when we reviewed Puss in Boots, I said the whole film is to do with that voice. And in your mind, it's not to do with the digital animation, which of course is brilliantly rendered, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It's to do with that. That voice has now become the voice of Puss in Boots.
He's a little pussycat with the mange. So you come over here, Miss Pussycat. That's what it is. And then when you hear the audio and you don't see the pictures, it's just Puss in Boots all over again.
No, it is when he said, they have no need for oil except for a poultice for the camel whenever.
That's it.
Okay, so, I mean, stellar cast. Tahar Rahim is absolutely fantastic. Mark Strong, Antonio Banderas, Frida Pinto, Riz Ahmed. I mean, really sort of proper, full-on good cast. Directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud. And you look at it and you go, okay, it's got a great cast. It's got subject matter that, has sort of topical resonance because it's about the way in which the exploitation of oil sets neighbouring states against each other and about the politics of the exploitation of oil. It has a top-notch cast. It has great big sweeping vistas. It has Lawrence of Arabia-style racing camel action sequences. It's got families riven, put apart, torn against each other. And at the heart of it, you have the kind of cast which you go, wow. And you're watching this, shot in Tunisia and Qatar, and I think it's Qatar's first major international co-production. And you're watching it and going, why is it boring? And the funny thing is that I think the reason it's boring is twofold. Firstly, you could say that the problem with it is that people are speaking English in the sort of cold foreign accent, and that's one of the problems with it. But there are many films in which people have done that, and actually they've got away with it. There's loads and loads of... the last couple of years, I used to have this sort of feeling that actually, if you're going to do that, if you're setting a movie in the Russian woods, don't have English actors speaking English but with a Russian accent. And then, of course, there was the case of that movie, the name of which fails me now, which the whole point was because you have an international cast. If everyone speaks with an international accent, it means you can cast around and every blah, 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 blah. And, of course, you've got Mark Strong, who, when Mark Strong came on the show, he said that one of the greatest saleable points about him, apart from the fact that he's a fabulous actor and all the rest of it, is that he has that sort of internationally non-specific look. He
could come from anywhere.
He can come from absolutely anywhere, and he's got real brooding screen presence. And I was literally looking at the cast list and looking at that and looking at the thing, thinking, I'm really going to enjoy this. So first, I don't think the problem is with the accent. Clearly, the problem isn't with the cast. Clearly, the problem isn't with the location, nor is the problem with the topicality of the subject matter. The problem is that in the end, Jean-Jacques Annaud has a strange way of doing epic in a slightly dull sort of, how many yards of epic would you like? Do you remember 7 Years in Tibet?
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, but that's what you remember about it, right? But that's a similar issue. 7 Years in Tibet, Hollywood star, extraordinary location work, interesting subject which had contemporary political resonance, despite the fact that it's a slightly historical subject, sweeping vistas, all this stuff laid on. Yet you sit there going, it does feel like I'm spending 7 years in Tibet watching this film. And the same thing was true of Black Gold. It's kind of an old-fashioned film, but not in a good way. Not old-fashioned in the way that The Artist is an old-fashioned film, but old-fashioned in the kind of rather dated, rather clunky, rather Fry's Turkish Delight advert old-fashioned.
I quite like that.
What, for 2 hours?
Well, there's a lot of Fry's Turkish Delight in 2 hours.
Yeah, but it is, and that is a real. I promise you, I really wanted to be incredible. And also, if you look at things like, There Will Be Blood, which again was, it's a historical story about the discovery of oil, and which had all these kind of contemporary resonances. It had everything. It got a great cast. It's got a great idea. It's got the contemporary resonance. It's got the sweeping vistas. It's got the camels. It's got the, it's like that bit in Peggy Sue Got Married when Nick Cage says, "I've got the hair. I've got the teeth. What is it that mean I'm not a star?" And the answer is, you're a bit dull. And in the case of Black Gold, despite all the things that are in it that I really want to like about it, you come at the end of it thinking it's a bit of a long trudge, and it ends up being a bit hokey and a bit old-fashioned and occasionally a little bit toe-curly, but generally just a bit dull.
Did you use Fry's Turkish Delight as an example of old-fashioned chocolate? Is that what you were thinking of?
Well, yeah, because you remember the adverts for Fry's Turkish Delight, which was somebody bringing, through an unspecified desert, and sand and all that sort of stuff. It's like that.
I see. Okay. I just wondered if that is the ultimate old-fashioned chocolate.
Well, it was the ultimate old-fashioned advert, wasn't it? In the same way as the other one about "And All Because the Lady Loves Milk Tray," which meant that a man leapt off a cliff and hang-glided, out of an air, whatever it was, and then in the end turned up in somebody's bedroom, left a box of milk chocolates, and then jumped out in a parachute.
Always in a polo neck as well.
Always in a polo neck. Never got wet.
Never trust a man in a polo neck. Tiffin.
I wear a polo neck.
Exactly, that's my point. But you don't jump out of helicopters and leave chocolates in ladies' bedrooms, do you?
You don't know.
That also is very true. And if Mrs. Professor Her indoors would like to correct me, then that's absolutely fine.
No, I can tell you right now, I don't do that.
Okay. So, still to come...
Rampart.
Oh, that's something to look forward to already.